A poll came out last week from the University of Virginia's Center for Politics. It's gotten some attention for one question that it asked of Trump voters and Biden voters. The question was in the form of a statement, and people were asked if they agree and how strongly. It goes like this, quote, "The situation in America is such that I would favor blue/red states seceding from the Union to form their own separate country," close quote. According to the study, 52% of Trump voters would consider such a thing. 41% of Biden voters were open to the idea. When asked if they agreed strongly with the idea of splitting up the United States, 25% of Trump voters said yes. And 18% of Biden voters are ready to divvy up the country along partisan lines. 18%. These are the people who won the White House last November and the Senate in January. But set aside the fringe for a minute and focus on the 41% and the 52% who, quote, somewhat agree, close quote. You'd expect the party not in power to be disillusioned and bitter for a while, wouldn't you? If you correct for that, we're looking at close to half the voters from both sides thinking that a pluralistic society might just be more trouble than it's worth. Let's get into it. Here's a chart from Statista. This is a breakdown of red and blue by state. The bluest state is Massachusetts, and the reddest state is Wyoming. Notice that even in the states where one-party dominance is at its peak, the dominant party represents less than 60% of its citizens. There really are no red states or blue states, just red or blue majority states, and often these majorities are pretty slim. Let's look at the two states where the Stop the Steal people have caused the most trouble: Arizona and Georgia. I can't count the number of nasty comments from viewers who have called me ignorant for believing that either of these states is now purple. Those are red states. The election was stolen. Okay, let's look. What would you call Georgia and Arizona? In both states combined, there's only 1 point of majority, and that point goes to Democrats. Breaking up America into two geographic areas with homogeneously red or blue populations would be virtually impossible. It would mean uprooting perhaps 150 million Americans, many of whom would not want to go. It would be the greatest forced migration since the Atlantic slave trade. And after the Great Resettlement, ideological purity testing would be constant. Anybody who bucked popular opinion would risk deportation to the other America. Both would be strictly one-party nations, like China or North Korea. There are multiple charts in the UVA study, but this one contains the statement/question that we've been talking about. It's the one at the bottom. Let's check out the other boxes. I'll read the statements while you look at the numbers. Statement: there are many radical, immoral people trying to ruin things. Our country ought to stop them. Statement: if our society so wants, it is the duty of every true citizen to help eliminate the evil that poisons our country from within. Statement: our country needs a powerful leader in order to destroy the radical currents prevailing in society today. Statement: it would be better for America if whoever is president could take needed actions without being constrained by Congress and the courts. If this study is legit, more Trump voters than Biden voters are ready to end the American experiment. But make no mistake, if Trump had won, this poll would have reversed these numbers and then some. At least 25% of blue voters from this study would be screaming for the death of the Union. At least that many would be certain that America could not be saved. Democrats never accepted Trump as president, never gave him an inch of slack. This map got passed around before Trump was even sworn in. They threatened to move to Canada then, but if he'd won twice, they'd be threatening to merge with Canada. And victorious Trump voters would be calling them traitors and seditionists for even entertaining such an anti-American idea. Wow, that's just sad. We always like the rules of the game a lot better when we're holding the trophy. Still, did you ever think that so many supposed conservatives would be calling for an unleashed strongman dictator to run their country? Again, if Trump had won, the numbers would be reversed. only the dictator would be an all-powerful woman of color. What's going on here? Let's jump back to that chart. Did you notice how these questions lead the witness? We go from immoral radicals to the duty of true citizens to eliminate evil, to a call for a powerful leader, and finally to giving that leader absolute power. Do you see the progression of thoughts? I'm guessing that these questions were asked in just this order, too, leading up to the one we started with. And given that this was an online survey, my guess is that the participants were recruited on Facebook and Twitter. I think this study is what we used to call a come-on. The questions here seem designed to snag a certain type of Trump voter by walking them through questions that flip their switches one by one. Can it be that 25% of Trump voters seriously want to bust up the union? No. But 25% of Trump voters who are active on social media, if they've been primed with leading questions? In my experience, yeah, that's possible. I don't think for a second that any such breakup is in the cards. We can't even pass a budget. But the spirit of a breakup is already upon us. For years, people have been seceding from their families and social groups over something they heard on biased media. As long as people on both sides insist on living with their heads wedged into propaganda fishbowls, ideological prejudice will keep eroding our institutions and rotting our minds. Biden was elected as the so-called moderate, and he's struggling to glue his own party back together. But the radicals on that side aren't having it. There is a real opportunity here for conservatives if we can just get ourselves focused on our values again. Maybe Trump will grow a conscience and call off his dogs. Maybe Republican politicians will grow some testicles and stop kowtowing to conspiracy mongers. If not, things will only get worse. And God knows what kind of lunacy will be showing up in the polls by this time next year. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and then click the little bell to get notifications.